Hey guys, gals, and non-binary pals, it's me, Christopher. I'm out here walking the dog. We're in the neighborhood right now. There's this the Casitas water pump plant. Anyway, it's not important. The point of this was I want to express to you what I went through this last week, because I served jury duty. It's the one time I had to go to court that wasn't it wasn't my case. And so it was a D, kind of like a DUI. It was a wet and reckless, right? Someone got pulled over. Someone had a minor car accident, and the police showed up, and they made a big stink about it, and they're like, "Oh, this person's on something, right?" And they gave him the alcohol test, the breathalyzer. He passed it. And then so they continued to test, and they're like, "Oh, well, he must be on something, right?" And so they finally arrested the person. He didn't harm anyone. He didn't damage anything. It was just a little fender bender. He said an animal ran out on the road, and he dodged to miss it, and he hit the curb, and it was like a big deal, and he already had called for a taxi, a tow truck to come. He called for a ride home. The guy did all these things that one would do when you get in a minor fender bender that doesn't involve anyone else. It has no injuries. And as far as I could understand from the body cam, the person didn't seem visibly inebriated, except for the fact that he couldn't estimate time. Well, which I don't know. Who can estimate time? Well, come on. I'm dyslexic, and I can't. If you had me sit here and estimate 30 seconds, I probably couldn't do it. But then they had to do all the other stuff, the walking down the street with the leg up, and put your finger on your nose, and touch your butt with your pinky and stuff. And I don't understand, these tests, these field sobriety tests, were designed for testing alcohol impairment. So how can an officer use that and how do you juxtapose it to impairment under, because that was the case. It was driving under the influence of a drug. So it could be illegal, could have been legal, could be marijuana, it could have been which it was. It was a mix of medications. The person was on a substance abuse medication that was Suboxone. They had marijuana in their system. They had some other minor, like acetaminophen or whatever, but nothing illegal. So we went through the trial, and I was listening to the defense and to the DA, but so when an officer pulls someone over and they say, "Oh, well, I think this is an impairment issue," there are clear guidelines and clear understandings of what impairment under alcohol is. There's multiple signs, multiple symptoms. There's the testing of the blood alcohol, which 0.08 or more, you're fucked. But when it comes to anything other than alcohol, especially marijuana, there's no way of testing. So they can test you and see what's in your system, but there's no number. Say you have 12 milliliters of marijuana in your system. There's no number that says that causes impairment. Someone could have, 1,000 times that in their system and not be impaired. So I feel that the justice system, it hasn't caught up with the laws that they're trying to pursue. We all know about the meth epidemics. We all know about the fentanyl epidemics. I personally, like I alluded to, I have my struggles, and I've been clean for a couple years now, but I felt bad for this person. I'm like, you have nothing illegal on you. You have nothing illegal in your system. Why are the police making such a big deal out of something that they weren't called to? The accident happened, and the officer just happened to drive by and see it. And so he pulled over for quote-unquote wellness check, welfare check, right? Oh, just make sure everything's okay. Well, once he saw everything was okay, and he saw it was just a crash, and he saw that the person already had called for a ride home, they were there, already had called for a private tow truck, they were there, but the officer saw Narcan in the person's vehicle, which they give out for free in the jail, in the courthouse. You can call a police officer and ask him for Narcan. He'll bring it to you. So I don't understand why someone who was in possession of something that is not illegal to have, doesn't even cost money to obtain, and is purposely being given out by the county to stem the overdoses. And so I don't think that's fair. I didn't think that was fair at all in the case. Plus the testing, they didn't do the testing right. There's very specific things about testing the eyes with certain kind of light settings, in a bright light, in complete darkness, in ambient light, and then you test it again. So they botched a lot of it, and I was a little upset in the testimony of the officers, where they said, well, based on my experience and this certification for testing of this and testing of that, but at the time of the incident, at the time of the quote-unquote crime, arrest, the officer did not have that certification. He only had the minimum, alcohol impairment certification, not the drug or the illicit drug. There's two of them, certifications. And I don't understand how you can justify that, right? Like the police, did say multiple times, well, I wasn't certified for that specific testing at the time, and plus the guy was held for an hour and 45 minutes sitting on the side of the road with not one sheriff, not two sheriffs, not three sheriffs, but four. Once the first sheriff showed up, and he's like, oh, I see Narcan in the car, and there's this accident, they called every sheriff in the county, and they all showed up. And so, and the guy was very distraught, the accident happened, and he was kind of like not understanding like what's going on. I didn't call you to come here, and I think that's something we need to like maybe consider as a society. It's like, are police allowed to just show up and exercise their authority without reason? Like, okay, you're investigating something, but look, there was an accident. Fender bender. No one was injured. Nothing was damaged. There's no major issues. It wasn't blocking the road. But a cop drove by and somehow made it into a fucking federal case, more or less. I mean, it was. I was disgusted. Mind you, I do have my biases, and I try to keep the lid on them. when they went through the jury selection. But and I kept an open mind about it. I said, let's see the evidence, let's see how it goes. And when you look at it, the police just screwed it up. I didn't do this right, I didn't do that right, but they showed this, but they did this, but they did that, but. That's all they could say is but the person, I knew they were guilty, or there was something not right, or I didn't like the comment where the cop had said, oh, well, yeah, the guy got in this accident here, and I guess, he called a tow truck and called his father for a ride to, clean up the mess, and it's like, no, we're not doing that. It's like, no, what? No, what? Isn't that what you do when you have an accident? When you have a non-injury, non-personal property damaging fender bender that only required one thing. Two things. It required two things. The guy called for a ride home, and he called a tow truck to take his car off the street. And that's all that needed to show up there. There was no police report. There was not even they didn't even do a police report about the accident. And they botched so much of it, and I'm just so disappointed in our justice system, which, I've been disappointed in it for years, but I feel that I was hoping that we kind of moved into a better form of justice, in that, if someone's going to be convicted, if someone's going to be get